Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Southerners Northern Garden. So today's video is going to be fairly short, and it's simply about thinning out your seedlings. So these are the pepper seedlings that I started 2.5 weeks ago on my live, I believe, with y'all. And so I have really good germination. I have most of them, both seeds came up that I put in the containers, even though a lot of those seeds that I have are approaching 4 years old. So what we're going to do today is snip out the one that doesn't look as good. And so we have a couple issues here on some of them. Some of them, the seed coating hasn't come off great. And that is a sign, if your seed coating is not falling off your leaves, that the humidity is not good enough in the location where you're doing seed starting, or in my case, I removed the humidity domes a bit too early because I wanted to prevent some of that fungus and mildew growth. And so one way you can resolve that is spritz your seeds with water as they're growing. Another option is you can actually spit on your finger a little bit and dab the seed coat with that. That'll moisten the seed coat enough so it will fall off. And then another option is just to be very, very careful and pull it off. You could risk pulling off the leaves in those cases, so just be careful in those instances. But I'm going to go through, because some of these have multiple and some of them germinate a little later. And so you can also, at this point, separate these seedlings. In my experience, last year was the best pepper year that I've ever had, starting peppers from seed. And I believe it may have been the first year that I clipped these out. And so in my experience with peppers, separating the pepper seedlings sets them back a little bit. That's just been solely my experience. So I actually have only 2 good plants of 𝗗𝗓𝗗𝗦 jalapeno. The other one right here, the seed coating did not come off on good, so I think I am going to separate those 2. But all the others that have more than one seedling in them, I'm just going to snip them off at the base, and I'm going to go through all of these and just find the strongest looking one. If they look even, it's any, mini, miny, mo. You just really want to pick the one that looks the healthiest and has the most growth. So we're going to get started trimming these out. In some instances, it's just the seed that happens to be growing best in the center of the container. So there's a couple of those that are pretty even, and I just removed the one that's not so center. Not that that really matters, but when you're growing seedlings, the spacing is kind of important, and it may cause others to not get as much light. So pick the one that's most central. All right, we've gone through and removed or cut down all of those little seedlings, so each container has 1 seedling. You want to do this early in the process because the plants have enough food in the seed coat to germinate well and get going. At this point, if you've been following along, you know my seed starting mix for all my vegetables do not contain fertilizer, so you need to begin fertilizing your seedlings at half concentration rate. I use this Neptune's Harvest seaweed and fish fertilizer. It is very stinky, but just follow the instructions, but use half of what the instructions tell you. So in this instance, I'm actually going to follow the house plants. So I'm going to use half of a tablespoon per gallon. So it's going to be a very little amount. And I bottom water my seedlings, which means I will be adding the fertilizer directly. Look, you can already see those roots under there that are growing really great. I add my fertilizer directly to this container here, along with lots of water. So these 10 by 20 trays hold slightly less than a gallon of water. So I'm going to add my fertilizer directly here. I don't measure, mainly because I do enough cooking that I can pretty much see how much half a tablespoon is. And so I'm just going to do a little drop of seedling of fertilizer. Like I mentioned, this is pretty stinky too, so just be cognizant of that when you get ready to fertilize your seedlings. I'm going to stir this fertilizer around in the water a little bit, and then I am going to set the tray directly in this water and let the seedlings absorb all of that very stinky nutrition. And so you'll let your seedlings soak here for 15-30 minutes. just whatever's best. And then these trays are slightly elevated in the 10 by 20 trays, and so as long as there's not water contacting the soilless potting mix that you have in here, I just leave the water in the bottom. The roots that grow into the 10 by 20 tray can soak up that extra water, but there's not water sitting on all the roots all the time. That may not be best practice, but that's how I've worked for about 3 years and had success. So I typically leave water in my trays at all times. Like I said, there's not water sitting to the level that these pots are sitting in. So it also helps a little bit with the humidity since I'm growing in the basement, and it tends to get a little drier in here. We don't have a really damp basement. That's why I was having some issues with the seed heads drying. But that's all I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set this back on the seed grow rack for 15 to 30 minutes, check the water levels, and if some water needs to be removed, I'll pour a little out. It is good fertilizer water, so if you have a funnel or some other method, just pour it directly back in your gallon jug, and then you can use it to fertilize other seedlings later. So that's really all I wanted to walk y'all through today. I know this is very difficult to do if you're a new gardener and you're starting seeds. And myself, I was very hesitant to do this when I started gardening because every seed was precious. And I think the longer you garden, you realize that, one, I would have had no place to put those peppers really to begin with. It would have wasted other valuable space in my seed growing room if I had split them out that I could put towards something else. And you know, I'm just gonna be happy with this amount of peppers. The others I didn't need. They were just an insurance policy to make sure I got at least one to germinate. So thank you guys for joining me today. And remember, in a world full of hate, be a light. Take care, everyone. Bye.